Greetings, friends. It's an honor once again to welcome you back to Rick's Garage. Today I have a 2009 Scion XB for you. It comes in needing an alternator. The alternator is putting out 0 voltage. The battery indicator is on in the dashboard. So that's what today's project is, to replace this alternator. As with any repair, friends, especially when you're working on an electrical system, you should always disconnect the negative battery terminal first. It'll be a 10mm socket you'll need to loosen this. And it looks like it's coming off quite easily. Okay, very good. What I'm going to do is put a cover over this terminal so that should this thing slip, it won't come back in contact with it. These things are nice. You get these whenever you buy a new battery, and I always save them. Okay, now we're ready to start disconnecting the alternator. Now this plug right here that you see doesn't actually go to the alternator, but it's very close and attached to the wiring harness, so I'm just going to get it out of the way. So what you want to do is squeeze this little tab right here, and it should pop right up. Next, I'm going to undo this bolt here. It's a 10mm. A little stubborn. Okay, next I'm going to take a little screwdriver and pry up this cover. There we go. And then I'm going to unbolt this 10mm nut, which is on there big time. Okay, that's out of the way. All right, next I want to pull this plug out. You want to squeeze it right at the end here, and it should pop right off, and it did. Okay, what you see on my bench here is a standard Serpentine belt tool. For most cars, this will work quite well. It's a long handle with a 3/8 adapter. You've got some crow's feet and some sockets. The problem with this vehicle is the tensioner nut is tucked underneath the motor mount, so you can't get at it straight on. Now, there are a number of front-wheel drive vehicles with the belt tensioner tucked under the motor mount. These are mostly Toyotas. When I first encountered this a number of years ago, what I did was I purchased another one of those Serpentine belt kits. They're fairly cheap money. You usually get them between 25 and 30 bucks. And what I did with the extra kit is I took the belt tensioner rod and I bent it. I heated it up, bent it, and repainted it. And I've kept it ever since, just for this situation. Alright, so I'm not going to be able to give you a very good view of this, so I'm not going to try. You've got to put your tool down underneath the motor mount and try to connect into that nut for the tensioner. A little tricky getting it on there. There we go, I'm on it. Okay, so now I'm going to attempt to release the tension on this belt. Okay friends, now we're going to unbolt the alternator now that we've got the belt free. We want that belt to get away from us. It's a 14mm. That doesn't want to turn very well, but we're going to make it turn. Alright, there's not much room to spin this. I'm going to try getting an air ratchet and see if I can zap it out with that. Alright, let's see if we can zap that out there with the air ratchet. Yep. There it is, we have it out. There's a 12mm bolt underneath here that we have to get out that we're kind of blind on. So I don't know if we can flip this alternator up a little bit and try to access that. Let's see what happens. So I'm able to flip this up, and that might give us a view of the 12mm bolt that we have to get out. So do the top one first, flip it this way a little bit, and then it'll allow you to get a visual of the 12mm nut that you have to take off. Okay, so we got this bolt out and the alternator should lift out of there finally. There we have it. Now normally I would automatically replace the belt, but the belt actually looks pretty good. So I'm not going to get into that. Alright, so what we're going to do first here is we're going to slip the new alternator down into place. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to hold the alternator out like this so we can get a visual of the bottom 12mm bolt. It's a matter of getting this bolt started. Okay, I've got that started. Let's get our ratchet in there and see if we can tighten it up a little bit. Okay, and I'm just going to kind of snug that because I want to be able to move the alternator back into place. So now we're going to slide the alternator forward. And looks like I put a little tighter than I really wanted to, but that's okay. Just move this alternator back into position. There we go. So that's a neat little trick there, sliding this alternator around so you can get at that bottom bolt. I just got to get my pry bar to help line up this 14mm bolt a little bit. There we go. Okay. Okay, that's tight. So let's get this out of our way. Let's get the belt in position. Okay. All right, now comes the fun part. We'll try to compress the tensioner and see if we can get the belt slipped on. Ooh, I think I got it. Almost got it. There it is. Okay, it was a struggle, but the hardest part is done. The alternator is in and the belt is installed. So now it's a matter of just plugging everything in and trying it out. So we'll push this in. That clicked. Connect this. Okay. That little cover back on. Plug this back in. It's plugged in. Okay, let's clip the air conditioning lines back in. Okay. So let's hook up the battery and try to start it up and see what happens. We want to put the engine dipstick back in. Don't want to forget that. Okay, so I'm just going to tighten up this battery and we'll try it out. I had cleaned both terminals earlier. Okay, let's cross our fingers and see what happens. Okay, it looks like the job was a success. The alternator is running nice and quiet. The battery light is out. I'm going to take a look and see what we're getting for voltage. Okay, so we're putting out at idle almost, well, 13.62 volts. That's fine. So we're putting out almost 14 volts, which is normal. So looks like the alternator is producing current, and we're in good shape. Okay friends, I'm going to call this job done. Just a quick review of what we learned today. Make sure you disconnect your negative battery terminal first. Not a bad idea to do that no matter what you're repairing. It is helpful to have a bent serpentine belt tool. This is because the tensioner is underneath the motor mount. Disconnect the 14mm bolt first on top. It's easiest to get to. Once that's out, take a pry bar and pivot the alternator so you can gain access to the 12mm bolt on the bottom. Otherwise you'd be working blind. Once the 12mm bolt is out, you can lift the alternator out of the way, put the new alternator back in, keeping it pivoted, and insert the 12mm bolt that you have limited access to first, snug that, then pivot the alternator back in position to put the 14mm bolt in. So I want to thank you once again for watching Rick's Garage. Before I go, I'll post 2 videos to your left. Should you find one or the other of interest, by all means feel free to click on them. To your right will be a picture of my avatar in the form of my very trusty German Shepherd. Feel free to click on that if you wish to subscribe. So thanks once again for watching, and we hope to see you all again very, very soon.